This is Ray Mofield again with the oral history microphone, and today we're visiting in the home of Mrs. Lois Lamb. And this is the Brewers neighborhood, just off of the highway between Hardin and Mayfield, or Brewers, or whatever you want to call it, Kentucky 80. And she has a beautiful home here, and it's nice that you let me come, Miss Lamb. Pleasure to talk with you. You, I presume, are old enough to talk. Now, we've
Well, I guess so.
we have kind of a general sort of rule. We don't enforce it 100% all the time, but that people need to be 65 years of age. Would you mind telling us when you were born?
1902.
1902. Well, that's
Several years
put
ago.
you up in the area.
Yeah.
And your father's name was what?
Knox Rose.
And before you married, you were?
Rose. Lois Rose.
Lois Ross.
Lois Rose.
And your mother was?
Rowena Myers.
She was a
Myers before she married me.
Myers.
Rose.
Now, did you know any of your grandparents?
Oh, yeah. Grandpapa Rose. Let's see. Yeah, Pope Rose, they called him. And Grandpapa Myers. George Myers. George Myers was his name.
I see.
You've done that out there on the Mayfield? No, that highway goes from Hardin to Benton.
Now, about where were you born? It was in Marshall County?
Yes, I think so. That road goes from down through Pleasant Grove over to that other highway. I forgot what road they called that.
But you were born in Marshall
Oh,
County.
yeah.
And did you have any brothers and sisters?
Oh, yeah. I've got one sister and, two brothers are living and two's deceased.
So that was a right good-sized family.
Yeah.
Now, was there a grade school near where you lived? Where did you go to school?
Yeah, at Darnell School.
Darnell School.
Darnell School. Up there by Lilburn Lambs. I guess you know where that was.
Oh, well, yes. I've heard of Darnell School an awful lot. I guess there are more Darnells in the county than anybody, unless it be Smiths.
Quite a few, I reckon.
And some of the very earliest of the settlers were Darnells. Henry Clay Darnell, for example, was one of the very first settlers, and he was first preacher in the Jackson Purchase, Baptist preacher.
Well, I didn't know them, but Uncle Marion Darnell and...
No, he was buried a long, long time ago. In fact, they're buried at Soldier Creek Cemetery.
Yeah, I guess they are.
And I believe
Henry Darnell, he might have been the one that lived at Benton but I don't know what his last name was. There's a Henry Darnell that run a mill there and made ground meal.
Well, that may have been this man's descendant, but of course the original Darnell who came here from Caldwell County would have been dead by that time.
Yeah, I guess so too.
All right, you went to Darnell School. Do you happen to remember any of your teachers?
Oh, yeah, Miss Ada and Mr. Ambers Thompson, Miss Ada Lyles and Mr. Ambers Thompson.
Miss Ada Lyles. Now,
you know her,
sure. Yeah, is she still living?
No, no, I believe she passed away. Well, I'm not sure. She may still be out there in the rest home at Benton.
And Mr. Ambers Thompson, you say, was one of the teachers. I've heard his name come up a number of times.
Miss Nell Cope, I believe Garfield Cope.
I've heard that name a good many times, Garfield Cope.
Miss Nell was a Thompson, then she married a Cope. Garfield Cope. That was back in my younger, about when I first started school.
Now, I suppose like most people in your generation, you lived on a farm.
Oh, yeah.
And your father grew
They-
the typical crops.
Oh, yeah, corn, tobacco. That's about it, I guess, back then. Corn and tobacco. Wheat. They grew wheat.
Did you ever have to plow a mule?
Oh, yeah, after Claude and me married. I didn't have to, I never did till after we was married, and then I helped him
Yeah.
break ground and helped out in the field about all time.
That seems to be a common thing for that particular generation.
Yeah, after we moved it. Well, we had strawberries when we lived at Uncle Mary and Darnell place. We used to live up there. And if you know where Uncle Mary and Darnell place was.
I've forgotten.
Aunt Izor Darnell,
Mhm.
Uncle Nick and all them, Emery Darnell, Frank Darnell, you know Frank Darnell, I guess. They knew him. Of course, he's passed away.
All right, you even plowed a mule.
Oh,
What
yeah.
were some of the other jobs that children had to do when they
Oh,
came in from school? Maybe?
well, we had to work in tobacco. We had to hold tobacco, and then when it got worm in the sucker, and we had to do that.
Yeah.
So, there's always a job. Replant corn.
Did
We had to use the hoe back then.
uh-huh. A lot of hoeing going on in those
Yeah.
days. Well, the school then provided a little bit of fun for you. You
Yeah.
got to play some games there. Do you
Oh, yeah.
remember any of those?
Oh, hopscotch, and we played basketball some, and just first one thing and another, I reckon.
Uh-huh.
Stealing sticks and what all that.
Well, you were married.
Yes.
Now, tell me how you met your husband.
Well, of course, I've been married twice. The first one, well, let's see. He was a cousin to one of our neighbors, and I guess that's the way I met him.
Mm-hmm.
And Claude and me, why, we'd been to church, and I was going home to church, and he met me outside.
Mm-hmm.
And
Where did
wanted
you go
to-
to church?
New Zion,
New Zion Baptist Church.
yeah,
Okay.
New Zion.
You still get to go there?
Well, I haven't been lately.
Health doesn't permit you to get out a whole lot.
Well, no, I don't get out much anymore. And
You no
course-
longer drive a car.
I haven't got a car. No, I never did learn to drive a car. And so,
Well, let me ask you if you had any children.
yeah, Claude and me's got 2 girls and a boy, and then I had one by my first marriage,
Mm-hmm.
Toy Threech. You may know him.
Toy 3. I've heard that name.
Married Clint Darnold's girl.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Clint Nessle's girl.
And are there any grandchildren who get to
Oh.
come to see you
Oh,
and
yeah,
entertain you a
they've-
bit?
They've all got children. Betty's got 2, and Rosemary's got 2, and Tazzy's got 3, 4, and Toy's got 3.
So,
So there's quite a family of.
that's right. Do any of them live in this county or nearby where they?
Yeah, Taz lives over on this other road that goes, there at Brewers.
By the store.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you go between that house and the store back that road.
Mm-hmm.
They live over there on Rufus Ray Place.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, Betty lives over there across the road from me.
So she can kind of keep an eye on you.
Oh, yeah, she has to do all my grocery shopping and shopping, you might say. But I hardly ever go down, and she gets my groceries.
Well,
She helps me out a lot.
that's convenient that she's able to do that.
Yeah, that's why we let them have they own some land. They bought a place up on the hill. They didn't want to build up there, so we let them have a building spot down here to build them a house.
Mm-hmm.
So they built down here. I'm glad that they're close by me.
Are you like the traditional grandmother? I saw a bumper sticker the other day. It says, blow your horn and I'll show you the picture of my grandchildren, or
Oh,
something like
I
that.
never heard that. Well, I took care of some of them, Betty's for some, and if she had to work or go someplace or like that, I took care of Tazzie's for the rest more while for them till they got big enough to follow them out in the field, I reckon. And then that's Tazzie's and Betty's is about all I took care of and kept for them while they worked out in the field.
Did you ever have any amusing things happen that you can remember that, they might not have been funny at the time, but after you look back on them, they were sort of funny?
Well, I would know what.
Well, what about some of the typical kinds of old-time things that after you were married that you did? Did you have to work pretty hard on hog-killing days? Or?
Well, it's hard enough, seemed like. Yeah, we used to put up our own meat, fatten our own hog, kill them.
The men would do the butchering, and they'd scald those things and scrape the hair off of them and cut them open, and then the women had a lot to do getting a big dinner ready.
And cook dinner, and then we had to get the meat ready to cook the lard out, and then canned meat a lot of the time, canned tenderloins and ribs and sausage.
Oh me, canning tenderloin. That makes me hungry to think about it. A can
Pretty
of that
good.
opened in August was about the best thing I ever ate, I thought.
Well, that's about the only way we had to keep it back then. We didn't have no refrigerators.
We didn't even have electricity,
No,
much less
no.
deep freezes, did we?
Had wood cook stoves and burnt wood.
You kept warm by a fireplace.
Oh, well,
Or you had a fireplace.
well, yeah, we had
You might not have kept warm.
we had a fireplace till we moved down here, and then we had to use a stove.
Yeah, I guess when you got a stove, maybe a warm morning or something like that, you thought you'd arrived on the...
Yeah, it was a lot better than wood, having to make fires in a fireplace, and warmer too.
What kind of kitchen stove did you first have? Was it a big range with a warming closet and a
no.
water heater? And...
Just a little old box stove. Got at Mayfield one time.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I set up.
Well, that's exactly what happened in my father and mother's family. They had
Yeah,
a little
well,
box
way back
stove.
there, why, a lot of people had them kind. Then they got ranges with the
Now,
ovens.
the eyes on either the box stove or the regular ranges came out, and you can put a black cast iron dinner kettle in there.
Yeah. Tea kettle to heat water.
And let beans boil for half a day.
You just cook them longer than they do now, seem like.
Yeah. Well, that was really some good eating, though.
Yeah.
You know, my mother used to think that nothing would bake bread or cook food like a wood stove.
Well, I guess that's all we had and all we knew about, I reckon.
Well, when you got everything canned and so forth, then you had to cook out the lard.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes we'd sack sausage. Put in sacks.
Now, how did you make those sacks?
Well,
They
just
were
cut you a strip so wide and set them up and make a sack. About like you want a cake of sausage. Sack that.
and
put
that
sack.
that was cloth, though. Wasn't
Yeah,
it?
it's domestic.
Mhm.
Fixed them, sewed up a piece domestic.
You know,
Made
I haven't
us
heard that word in some time, but domestic was, I suppose, technically muslin. If
Oh,
it was unbleached, they
yeah.
called it brown domestic.
Yeah, well, they had yeah, brown domestic, and then they had bleached domestic. They had two different kinds, but we got the brown domestic to make the sausage bags
Hmm.
and quilt linings and pillowcases. People used to make quilt linings and sheets, pillowcases out of it. I have. My mother did till they got these here permapress and so on.
Hmm. Well, how did you, after you sewed all that together, those quilt tops, it must, with the little pieces that you had, it took a long time to make one, didn't it?
Yeah, quite a while. It's only the size of your pieces, I reckon. Of course, some was small and some was bigger, and
But most of them were just little scraps that you'd saved where you'd cut out
And
dress patterns
yes,
and so on.
yeah.
And when you got all, you'd sewed enough to keep an army together, you seem like. And then you still had to quilt the thing.
Yeah,
You
you-
put cotton batting in there.
Got your lining, and you got your cotton and put in there, and put your top on top, and went to sewing it together, quilting it together.
Did you ever dye those linings?
Yeah, I've seen Mother dye 'em lots of times.
Now they boiled that in a big wash kettle, I think.
Yeah. Well, you know, we used to have to use their wash kettle to wash in too.
Mhm.
And they'd get them some water and put that dye in there. And
They call that rit. Was that rit? Was that the name of the dye?
let's see, diamond. No, well, there was a red, but you didn't have to boil that. You just put that in the water and wash your.
Hmm.
Well, they might have boiled it too, but it wasn't like some of the dye they used to use. Boil it and put salt in there to set the color so it wouldn't fade out, so it wouldn't wash out, rather.
Hmm.
So, and back years ago, where they used to go get bark off red oak trees, I believe it was, and maybe hickory trees, and boil that and make the dye to dye 'em.
Yeah,
Long time ago.
that was a long time ago, wasn't it?
Quite a while.
Now you took the cracklings you had left, and some of that you'd make shortening bread with it, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Crackling cornbread.
And they made me roar lye soap out of cracklings too, out of some of them. Tiny.
If you go back far enough, they even made their own lye out of wood ashes.
Yeah, I've seen Mother do that when I was small. I've seen them do that. Till they got this war lye, and then they went to using war lye.
Oh, it's a lot more convenient.
But it's in tin cans, you know.
Uh-huh.
I guess you've seen it.
Oh, my mother bought that. I don't
Yeah.
think she ever made any out of wood ashes, but I did see my great-grandmother Edwards have a wood ash holler.
Well, we used to have it when I was a kid growing up. We had one. Well, a lot of people back then had used that kind of lye, make their soap. I'm going to measure your nose.
Seems like the dog's a little alarmed at my presence here.
She don't like strangers anyway. Anybody comes in.
Well, let's move on to another item. And
Be quiet.
you said that you sometimes grew wheat. Do you remember wheat thrashings when you
Oh,
were growing?
yeah. Whenever Dad growed wheat, we shocked wheat. You know, they used to cut it with a combine or something, some kind of a machine, or I forgot what they call it. Pulled it by horses pulled it anyway.
I
And
believe they just call that a binder.
binder, I guess that's what it was. And us children, we'd go behind it and shock it up in bunches, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then the wheat thresher would come in the neighborhood and thresh wheat.
Now that always provided for boys like myself, before you got big enough to work real hard, a wonderful day because
Yeah.
you had a big dinner.
Yeah, everybody, you know, a lot of the neighbors would go in and cook dinner.
And then we got to play on the straw pile.
Oh.
Did you ever do that?
No, I never did, but I've seen children that did play on them. Whenever there'd be a threshing wheat and
Mm-hmm.
children be around, they'd play on it.
Of course, there was an enormous amount of hard work there. The man that had to sack that stuff and tie the bags, it kept him pretty busy.
Well,
and
yeah, I
the
guess-
man that
They-
fed the wheat into the thresher, he'd tear those little sheaves apart and
Oh.
keep pitching that in there all the time.
I guess so. I never was around them while it's threshing much, so.
Do you remember ever seeing a steam thrasher?
I believe Uncle Dolph Street had that kind.
Looked a little bit like an old-time railroad engine.
Yeah.
And that was fun to see the smoke belch out of that. Trains always thrill me anyway.
Yeah.
Well, after wheat thrashing, of course, which usually came, as I remember, in June, then a number of the things would start happening. You'd have to pick blackberries.
Oh, yeah.
And you'd can those things and make pies and
Jellies and jams.
yeah. What's the difference in a jam and a jelly?
Well, you take the seed out to make a jelly, and the jam, well, you leave the berries in there.
You leave it in.
Some people don't like them seeds, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and so some strain them off and get the seed out,
Mm-hmm.
cook them, and then strain them through a sieve strainer or something to get the seed out of them to make the jelly.
Mm-hmm. Then after that, you would get to go into the fields in the fall and look for chestnuts and hickory nuts.
Oh, yeah.
Did you ever eat any possum grapes?
Oh, yeah, I guess I have.
Or some of them, I guess, the little bigger ones they call muscadine.
Yeah, some of them was smaller than the others. Tiny.
What about entertainment after you grew up? I don't suppose you had a great deal, but did you go to Tater Day on?
No, I never did go to Tater Day much.
Well, what about big singing?
Well, a few times I'd go to big singing.
Get you a new dress and.
Yeah, outfit.
When you were working in the field, did you wear a bonnet?
Yeah. Well, I think we wore bonnets back then.
They made those things. It seems to me that my mother would put pieces of cardboard inside the cloth some way to make the.
Let's see what they call them. Slats, bonnet.
They-
Yeah, well, I've made them too, more.
Yeah. All right. How did you celebrate Christmas?
Well, we didn't have much back then. They just
Got
get us a little candy and maybe
an orange one?
yeah, something like that. Tiny.
So it took less to satisfy the children in those days.
Well, we just knew we couldn't get much, you know. They didn't make much back then. So we just didn't get much back in my days, younger days.
Well, the time has moved right along. Do you have any particular story that you'd like to tell? Something you had in mind you want to make sure you got on here before we...
I can't think of anything. Don't reckon.
Well, I'm sorry I turned out to be such a enemy to the dog here, but
She's like that by a lot of everybody comes in. She has to bark unless it's some of the children, grandchildren.
well, thank you, Ms. Lois Lamb. It's been a pleasure talking with you. I'm Ray Mofield. This is the Oral History Program. We hope you'll keep tuning us in from week to week.
Well, I nearly always turn on, but I forget it sometimes and then forget to turn on at the time that it comes on.
Well, I suppose everybody does that. I don't know of anyone that heard every one of them.
And, well, I forgot to what time that it come on, and I nearly always turn on if I thought about it on time.
Well, it's 8:25 on Mondays.
Oh, well, you're just on Mondays.
Just on Mondays, yes.
Every Monday?
Every Monday.
Every Monday. Well, I thought it was for a while, and I'd lost out for the last few weeks, I
Well, you
think.
tell everybody that you're going to be on next Monday.
Next Monday.
Yeah.
I'll just let them hear.
Get us a big audience.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you again, and we return you now to our studio.